Are we good?
You're good.
Who wants a car?
Just like that.
200,000 euros. Who wants a car? Come on. Okay. Let me just find the keys. No, actually, I'm just going to refine my offering. I'm just going to give you the drivetrain. Okay? Is that okay? Still worth 40 on eBay. I'm going to give you that. Actually, no, I'm going to refine. I'm just going to give you tires. Okay? You know where I'm going with this. Okay? This is called refined ultra-processed food. So I'm just going to give you the tires. I'll get the guys to wheel them in. Actually, I think I'm just going to give you the badge. Okay? Who wants just a Porsche badge? Yeah? Okay. When you refine things that much, there's nothing left. But what we can do is we can add functionality. So here's what I'll offer, okay? You can have the badge and the tires at 20,000 euros. Okay? Bargain. Or maybe I'll throw in the drivetrain for only another 100,000. Okay? Becoming really, really, really functional. Okay? Or maybe I give you the whole car. Just 200,000 euros. Okay? That's all there is to it. Actually, what I might do is I'll change it completely. So it looks nothing like the original offering. But I'm going to throw in the bow and I'll throw in the badge for free. This is ultra-processed, the bad side of ultra-processed food. I think that what my job today is, which is different from lecturing, I've been lecturing for maybe 30 years in nutrition. And in the old days, my job was to give, they're taking photos of that. In the old days, my job was to give you information. Okay? And I see now my job is to give you some information, just to titillate you a tiny bit. But actually, I think it's about giving you a roadmap, because the information is there. We're in the Google age. You can find information as easily as me. And so I think what we, the elders of the nutrition world, our job is to help you with our experience, our reflections, to find what is the meaning? How can we avoid the bullshit? Okay, because there's a lot out there. We need to put these things in context and stoke your curiosity. Okay, I was speaking to somebody this morning who said, if you're not passionate and enthusiastic for nutrition, you're in the wrong subject, because nutrition and food is exciting. It's everything, absolutely everything. Okay, so there's a little introduction to functional foods. Functional foods have become, courtesy of the food corporations, what happens when you strip food down to its absolute basics, as Ben Allen was saying this morning, and then you fortify that juice, you fortify those dairy products, you fortify those breakfast cereals. Okay, that's for me the negative side of functional foods. I was speaking to Paula from Brooks yesterday evening, and she was saying, but I'm producing, or I want to produce some functional foods. I'm going to add spirulina. I'm going to add all sorts of extra goodies. I said, yes, you can call those products what you like, but actually they are just food. These guys are using ultra-processed, synthetic, artificial additives to get back to where they should have been in the first place. So beware the corporation's definition of functional foods. The corporations have enormous, enormous, enormous power. This 2021 paper in Nature Food. Nature, I think, used to be a very prestigious journal, along with the BMJ, New England Journal of Medicine. I'm not so sure these days. We can have that conversation later, if you like. So this is the Food Compass, came out in 2021. Dariush Mostafarian, leading the group at Tufts, saying, looking at what is healthy, what is maybe not healthy, and what foods you should avoid. And this is the kind of analysis that they produced. I can hardly see it on the screen, so I'm going to look at it here. And this is published. These are the guidelines for the industry, guys. And in green, these are very good for you. In amber, they are okay, in moderation, and literally to be minimized in diet. You can't make this stuff up. Nature Food, published work, okay? And there up at the top, I can't even see it. Frost, thank you. So these are really, really healthy. Okay, I kid you not. Tufts University, shredded wheat honey nut. Okay, and slightly better is actually Special K vanilla. Special K vanilla. I kid you not. But whatever you do, don't touch eggs fried in butter. That'll make the French fall out of bed. Yeah? What else is there to fry eggs in? Let's face it, okay? Don't touch cheddar cheese. And the final one there, don't touch ground beef. This is the state of nutrition coming from the big corporations, okay? Beware. We need to maintain our integrity within the raw food world because we are promoting real food. And perhaps we're going to be the last people standing when these guys have their way because they have a lot of money behind them. We need to be talking about food. Don't you love this photo? It's about as real as it gets. It's about the opposite of Special K, honey, vanilla, whatever it is, okay? This is the real deal. We need to be talking about food. We need to be talking about meat and varieties of meat. We need to be talking about organ meat. We in this room do not eat enough organ meat, guys. Think of talking to your grandmother or your great-grandmother. She'd say, absolutely, you can't have a stew without good organ meat in there. Kidneys, liver, heart. This is what allowed us to evolve through the centuries. Glands, the Inuit, when they hunt moose or elk or seals, the first thing they go for, they'll make an incision on the back and go down into and find the adrenal glands because they are a source, one of the very few sources of vitamin C. Yeah, because these guys don't eat fruit for 6 months. And so they can find the vitamin C. So glandular material can be very, very useful. Bones, of course. Bone marrow, of course. Bone broths. Skin. Connor was talking about making sure that you feed skin somehow within the foods. I think that this is very important. And even hoof. Okay, you think, okay, yeah, I'll give the dog hoof. But this is what the Indonesians eat. This is a delicacy in Indonesia, okay? It's called kalado. And I kid you not, my mother-in-law and my wife will cook this. And she says, it tastes delicious, okay? I mean, you could not have more collagen, Connor. You could not have more fiber in a meal. However, I couldn't bring myself to eat it. They're like, oh, amazing. Okay, this is what happens at our house when all the Indonesians get together. They come together and produce the most incredible food using everything from the pig except the oink. They will eat everything. It's a sight to behold. I like talking about food, okay? But let's go back to this functional foods just for a second, okay? I've got some really, really big information to share with you for the last part of the conversation. So I want to get the functional foods things done, okay? This is what we've standardly called functional foods. I think they're just foods, okay? But I had to include some functional foods, otherwise Anna would kill me, okay? Functional foods, high antioxidant foods, of course. Many, many, many fresh foods are high antioxidant. You have to fill those in. You're welcome to take pictures. I stole this from Dr. Axe, okay? And in his 9 categories, he mentions all sorts of food groups, doesn't mention meat, which I think is a massive deliberate oversight on his part. Yeah, we mentioned the plant-based diets yesterday, and I think it's a modern contrivance to resell ultra-processed food. So be careful if that's your choice. If that's your choice, great. But strawberry muffin and a coffee, that's not vegan food. Vegan food is eating broadly and deeply out of foods, including green foods, including high fiber foods. There is controversy. If you read Zoe Harcum, she was a big high fiber fan, and now less so. There's quite a lot of work to suggest that perhaps, plant fiber or the formulation, we were talking about the particulate size of fiber. I think that's a whole area of research that we need to perhaps look into. Probiotic foods, totally. These things, prebiotic foods are very, very, very important. And obviously, omega-3. Dr. Axe does make a little concession here for fish because it's a very rich source. Connor's a fan of algal oil, and I think equally that is a very beneficial way of getting your omegas. Nuts and seeds. We love teas and herbs and spices. Obviously, these are part, it's very traditional. Indonesian food, for example, very rich with these, and bone broth. He does mention bone broth. So that's perhaps his concession. But actually, this is another concept of food is actually not just food. Yeah, in the textbook, they'll say it's beef. But what was the altitude at which those cattle were raised? What about the pH of the soil? What about the how many years of regeneration those fields have been in? All these things will impact the nutritional quality of the food. So many things. The season in which the cattle were raised and then slaughtered, the pharmaceuticals that were used in the raising of those animals, the age, the storage, the processing. And actually, this is another idea just to share with you just now. The attitude of the people who harvest the product. This is Dr. Hauschka. When I'm feeling flush, I love to use their face creams and things like that. It's very high end, but they actually will only allow happy people to harvest the herbs that they use for their products, which is fascinating. Let's look into that. Yeah, we now know that the observer can affect, within quantum biology, the observer can affect the outcome of the particle to which they're looking. So this is not airy-fairy. This is actually recognized. Back again to our functional foods. So it used to be that they defined, this is from a 2022 paper, there was a flurry in literature around 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 about functional foods. Everyone was getting really excited, okay? And now we have these additives within the food. And it used to be that they were substances that had positive effect on health beyond basic nutrition, okay? But they didn't like that definition, the corporations, and they said that in many cases, healthy foods are included under the term functional foods, and they didn't really like that. So they changed. This is a suggested definition. Functional foods are novel foods that have been formulated so that they contain substances or live organisms that have a possible health-enhancing or disease-preventing value and a concentration that is sufficiently high to achieve the intended benefit. Really? Novel foods that have been formulated. What's wrong with eating foods like we've been doing as humans for 3 million years? That's where we need to be doing. We need to be having a much clearer and positive conversation at the level of in the kitchen, in government, towards reducing our ultra-processed food and maximizing. Let's put a massive tax on ultra-processed food, and we'll use that enormous income to subsidize fruits and vegetables and really good quality, high welfare meat. That is, I think, is a really good policy. It's never going to go through because it'd be so unpopular. The lobby, I was going to ask you, Benal, about the American food lobby. The ultra-processed lobby in Washington is enormous, and they have a stranglehold, which is why the amount of metabolic disease in this United States is so enormous, because 60% of calories come from ultra-processed food. That's the average. I mean, some people are doing 100%. Okay? So I think a better definition is of a positive functional foods is substances that provide a health or healing benefit beyond a minimal maintenance level. Okay, let's think about that. We'll talk about that shortly, but that would be perhaps my definition. There's a reason that I use the choice of words, okay, which we'll come to shortly. So really, just to round up, I think all foods are functional. How you choose to put them together, how you market them, Paula, totally up to you. But don't fall for the corporations who say this is a functional food. It's high in vitamin B12 and iron, because they stripped it out and then they added it back and they charged you for it. I would suggest, therefore, that functional foods from the corporate definition are actually dysfunctional foods from a dysfunctional food system, which is ubiquitous in Europe, America, Australasia. And Robin quoted Krishnamurti, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Yeah, it's a great quote, Robin. Well done. That's what we're doing. The corporations are taking us this way, and most people think that's normal. It is normal now. Is it natural? Is it healthy? Totally not. Is it going to profoundly change society over the coming decades? Yes, it already is happening right now. Do not comply. Ask for food. Work for food. Cook food. Feed food to your dogs. Okay, the second part, then this is the exciting bit here. Okay, quiz. I'm going to come to the front and see my phone. What's relevant, guys? This is quiz. You can put your hands up to tell me. 93% of Americans, including kids, have metabolic disease. 93%. What substance helped every single one of those children? What substance what substance can help type 2 diabetes, as Ben was talking about? Alzheimer's, cancer, heart attack, depression, suicide, aging. All these things come from directly metabolic disease. If your mitochondria are not happy, you're not producing energy. You're not producing energy as somebody's talking about cancer as cancer as a disease of energy imbalance. Was that our conversation yesterday? Somebody had that conversation. Maybe I'm dreaming. And this substance is generally recognized by those who have the eyes to see that Western Europeans and Americans are deficient in this substance. Any idea? Caroline? Structured water is brilliant. Easy water, wonderful. I think that's great. Deuterium, depleted water, and all that stuff. That's fantastic. It's not the answer. Next, vitamin D is a great answer, and most of us don't have enough. Real food, I think it's a fantastic answer, but thankfully it's wrong. Anybody? Robin? Magnesium. Awesome. Wrong. Let me tell you a story. Okay, this is a story about scurvy. You all know the story. Yeah, back in the day, the sailors, when they were on land, they would be using the raw diet and they would be reasonably healthy for day. They would then go on long journeys away from land and they would become vitamin C deficient. Scorpic is how they used to describe. So that's good back in the illness, that's why they call ascorbic acid. Okay? They would have low vitamin C and then gradually become sick. So no point for anything up. Okay? There's a wonderful movie called Longitude by Doug Sobel, which, if you haven't read it, is the glorious description of how they solved the problem of longitude, how far you were from Greenwich Mean Time. Well worth a read. And that is an old example of exactly what we are seeing today. And what we're seeing today, we're all become deficient. We've only got what we're deficient in.
50.
No. Good answer.
College.
No. I thought you had it. Vitamin C. No. No, it's not.
Sunlight.
What sort of sunlight?
Midday
Near infrared sunlight is the nutrient that we are mainly deficient in. We're not getting enough near infrared. Let me tell you about that. This is a picture taken with near infrared filter on the camera. And can you see how the trees are glowing? Because they are massive diffusers and emitters of infrared light. I'm going to tell you more about that soon. And you see, because I changed the definition of functional food, I think that near infrared light is a functional food, is a nutrient that we're all deficient in. Let me tell you more. I think that near infrared is a substance that provides a health benefit and healing benefit beyond a minimal maintenance level of health. Decent food will give you health. Near infrared will take you to the next level. I'll tell you more. This is something that I've been looking at just over the last couple of months through the summer, and I am absolutely blown away by the near infrared story. Okay, I am as excited about the near infrared story as I was about raw food when I first came across it. It's mind blowing. I'll give you some references so that you can come with me on this journey. The science is mind blowing, and we're going to maybe show a tiny little video at the end to show you some of this stuff. But the practical use of this thing is super simple, and nobody's going to ever make any money out of it, which is why it hasn't been raised to the fore. Yeah, Kellogg's and Nestle, they would put their grandmothers into food if they could make a profit. Okay. But nobody's going to make a profit out of near infrared. Okay, so why am I so excited about near infrared foods? Okay, let's do that. I can't see what's on the screen because I'm blind. Okay, so this doesn't work in the laboratory. So this is an experiment where they took cells and they put LPS, lipopolysaccharides, which are toxic and inflammatory, to cells. They put them on, and the IL-6, which is a marker of inflammation, rose dramatically. They then shone just 48 hours near-infrared light on the same Petri dish. And the inflammatory marker, in this case it was IL-6, dropped by 80% just with light. Again, this is a nutrient that nobody's talking about. People know about this, okay? That is kind of a very basic and it's kind of a packaged version of near infrared, but there are so many more applications that we can use. This is good, but there is so much more that we can use. This is the one that really, really blew me away. And this is from the Glen Jeffrey laboratory at University College London, who Bernard, I'd love to link you up with these guys because of the metabolic implications of the infrared. And basically they took subjects and they tried them with a glucose tolerance test, and then they did the same by shining 680 nanometer. So it's not even very infrared, but they were just using 680 nanometer light, and they found a 27% drop in blood glucose. Guys, do you get that? Yeah, because if you look online, people say, oh yeah, infrared only penetrates maybe a millimeter in your skin. If that's the case, how are we seeing these effects? This is enormous, okay? I think it's a 2023 paper. So this is very, very much leading edge material, which is why it's so exciting. This is a researcher in Bath called Dr. Bob Fosbury, okay? And he did a very simple experiment. He had a camera with an infrared filter, and he had an infrared source, and he put his hand on the infrared source, and this was the picture that he took. Okay? Do you think that infrared light is penetrating 1 millimeter? Obviously not. What's also interesting, and I may have a, do I have a, oh, no, I don't know what that did. Can you see the source is way up there near his knuckles, back here, and yet the scatter within his hand is actually making the blood vessels in his wrist stand out. Okay, so the light is going in and it's diffusing and scattering, okay, which is pretty mind-blowing in itself. When for the last 20, 30 years, people say, oh, infrared only goes a millimeter, waste of time. Don't even think about it. Let's go a little bit further. Here we see, and this is what's going to blow everybody's mind, because people are talking about probiotics, they're talking about stress, they're talking about cortisol, they're talking about particulate size, but near infrared can influence the mitochondrial function. And in this model, they were using it to help the outcomes after cardiac arrest. Okay, and this is such a simple study. This is a diagram from it, and you'll notice that the near infrared is going through the skull into the brain to the depth of at least 4 centimeters. Now this is new. This is literally mind-blowing. Absolutely incredible work. We're going a little bit further. Near infrared light therapy as a potential countermeasures for mitochondrial dysfunction in spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, which is a very posh way of saying if you spend too long in the space station, and those guys, they're going up for 4, 5, 6 months, and this is a infrared free. There's plenty of light in the visible spectrum, none in the near infrared. So this is a wonderful cohort of people, and guess what's happening? They're coming back from space with metabolic disease that they didn't have when they went up. Yeah, these guys are having tests and blood markers and inflammatory markers and what have you, because they're going up to space for 6 months. They are in perfect health. 6 months later, and they're kind of in their 30s and 40s. Yeah, they're in great shape. 6 months, no infrared, sick, just like scurvy. Okay, we now look back on scurvy and go, how obvious is that? You just take some limes with you and off you go. This is modern, this is 21st. Bob Fosbury talks about 21st century scurvy. Okay, interesting and remarkable. This is another study here. And this is near infrared changing microbiome. This is a review paper. You're welcome to it. So we've got 808 nanometer light, increasing the allobaculum. We've got 730 and 730 nanometer light, decreasing Helicobacter and uncultured bacterioles, whatever they are, and increasing Reichenella, whatever that is. But what the thing is, going outside, sleeping under a tree can help improve your microbiome. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's so unbelievable. Okay. Exposing head, neck, and abdomen, positive changes in firmicutes, bacteroidetes, and improving clinical symptoms of Parkinson's disease. This is a revelation, guys. This is not what we were told at vet college, I bet. Johanna, you're not told anything about infrared light, okay? It's like scurvy. They didn't know about vitamin C until they knew about vitamin C. This is the moment, yeah? Just the last couple of years. The light affects your microbiome, even though it's dark in there. Revelation, okay? What is it that does it? It's near infrared, okay? You've got ultraviolet, yeah? So it's high frequency light there. And as you go up the spectrum, it gets lower. So it's lower energy, and that's critical to the penetration, okay? It's low energy, so it's not absorbed by pigments as the high energy, the vitamin D producing, which is 400 to 420 nanometer light. That's what gives you vitamin D. Yeah, it can also burn your skin. So you've got to play that one very, very carefully. We're talking here about low wavelength near infrared light, which has this penetration, bizarre quantum biology effect. Again, here's the picture from Fosbury, okay? Light source near his knuckles, and you see his blood vessels are dark relative to the other tissue, which is reflecting the infrared light. So we've got a profound effect here. What's happening? This is because the infrared is finding its way into the mitochondria and is affecting the cytochrome C oxidase and the ATP synthase. Okay, it's actually going in. Now, does it produce something there? Probably not. It's not like vitamin D, yeah, ultraviolet or blue light, and you create your vitamin D. What's happening here, they think, is that near infrared is actually lubricating the mitochondrial production of ATP. It's lubricating that thing. So this is how we are improving metabolic health with people who have adequate exposure to the near infrared. Okay. The photons that are entering the body are high energy, but they're in a low power formation. So when those photons hit the cytochrome C, hit the ATP synthase, they really get things excited. And that's how we're thinking that these things are having an effect. So this, which sounded like Californian woo-woo craziness,
is actually one of the most healthy things you can do outside of eating fantastic food. Melatonin plays a big part here. And the thought is that light will act on tryptophan, which is then turned into serotonin, which is then turned into melatonin. Melatonin arguably is the strongest antioxidant in the body. Talk about that more. There's a new book here from Casey Means. She and her brother Callie, that's not confusing, did an interview with Tucker Carlson recently, like even just 2-3 weeks ago. It's really, really worth looking for how depraved the American food system is. You've got to watch it. Casey Means with Tucker Carlson. Check it out. Okay, it's a great book as well. I'm about halfway through it at the moment. One of the bombastic and incredible pioneers in this work is a guy called Jack Kruse. He's a neurosurgeon who is now doing brain surgery without instruments, using near infrared. Another guy who's fantastic, he's an Aussie, Dr. Max Garhane. He does a podcast. He's doing a lot of work in this space as well. And then we've got good old Andrew Huberman, who's all over everywhere. And he's done this particular podcast looking at sunlight and the near infrared thing. That's maybe a good way to introduce. This is Robert Fosbury. I'm actually, because he lives in Bath, which is just 10 miles away from where I live, I'm actually going to have tea with him next Monday. Okay? So when we get to the States, I'm going to be doing some near infrared work in Orlando, and I'm going to bring you extra up to the minute stuff when we get to Orlando. Scott Zimmerman, Fosbury is an astrophysicist of all things. Imagine being able to say, "Oh, I'm an astrophysicist." So he's an astrophysicist. Scott Zimmerman, he's an optical engineer. What he doesn't know about light and how light interacts with substance is not worth knowing. Fascinating guys. This particular episode, take a picture, have a listen. Your mind will be blown by listening to that. You're welcome to have a look at these slides afterwards. What helps the melatonin rhythm and metabolic health? And the answer is early morning light. Early morning light, yeah, because you're going to get burned midday sun. Okay, it's the early morning light. So if you can get out, I hate to say that to you late risers, but if you can get out as the sun rises, that's a really, really powerful bathing. And you don't need to take your clothes off. Infrared, because it's low power, it'll just pass straight through your clothes. Obviously, if you've got 20 layers on, it probably won't. But with just normal clothes, it will get through your clothes. And so you can bathe without looking like you're bathing. What upsets metabolic rhythm? This is a study, and what they did is they had subjects who went overnight and they measured their melatonin and their sympathetic tone, heart rate, and what have you. And they exposed them to either 100 lux, which you can just about read a newspaper in, which is not very bright, or less than 3 lux, which is pretty black. And they found that by exposing them to the 100 lux, didn't affect the melatonin. Yeah, it wasn't sufficient for that. But that low level of light increased their sympathetic tone. They were more adrenalized, they were more cortisolized through the night. And that can't be good for your long-term metabolic health. Interesting stuff, guys. Interesting stuff. So we know about 5 minutes. Great. Thank you. We know about ultra-processed food, but actually we have ultra-processed light, which is maybe something, Bernard, that we need to think about, okay? You said yesterday that shift work is potentially carcinogenic, okay? And actually, maybe it be that lack of exposure to infrared is in the same category. Not only are we not getting enough infrared, we're getting too much blue light from our screens. So if you can possibly get one of the electronic filters that you just plug into your machine. There's an innate one on my Apple, okay? And it basically just makes the screen orange overnight so that you're getting less blue light, because blue light is fantastically toxic. It's not IR, near infrared, and it's actually metabolically toxic to you, and we're all exposed to it massively. Yeah, especially in the winter. You go to work when it's dark, you're on the screen all day, you go home when it's dark, and your house doesn't have any near infrared emitters in the lights. Yeah, so you're living in a permanently toxic environment. So what can we do? The answer is be outdoors as much as possible. Even in Finland, you only have a 4-hour window of sunlight during the summer. That's enough because you make up in the winter, because you make up during the summer, okay? So in winter, it's especially important to get out and be under with your dog. It's the early morning light is the best. Early evening light is great as well, but early morning light, most of all. The safest and most energetic place you can be is under a tree. Remember, they were white with near infrared. So to be outside under a tree with your dog is fantastically helpful. You don't need to strip off. Forest walks, because the trees are infrared emitters. You're bathing in near infrared in a forest. Think about changing your current LED lights gradually, because it'll cost a fortune, to near infrared emitters. Think about even changing your windows to, because most glass nowadays is blocks infrared. So even sitting next to the window, you're not going to get that near infrared. And also think about blackouts at night. Yeah, if you go for a pee, make the bathroom light red. Yeah, a deep red, because then you're not going to crash your melatonin, which you will not recover the rest of the night. Okay, easy peasy. Just get a bit of cellophane, put it on the light, or you can get a fancy infrared red light. But that's really, really important because we all do it. Yeah, you go in, click on the thing, click on the light, and off you go. Bad idea. Very easy to fix it. There are, Scott Zimmerman has a company here. He has near infrared, NERA. These are lights, they're in the States. I'm sure, I haven't looked any further than this, that you can get other near infrared lights for your house, because your house is toxic to you and to your dog. It's the space station, not your fault, but that's where we led by the corporations. Bob Fosbury says sitting under a tree in sunlight is one of the best things you can do for your mitochondrial health, way down deep in your guts, in your brain. And I'm going to add to that with your dog. Get out, have your lunch under a tree, okay, in all but the worst weathers. And you will improve your and your dog's metabolic health. So what are our take-home messages? There are lots of options to treat all sorts of metabolic diseases. We should let food be our medicine, but we need to improve our environment, the pesticides, the toxic environment, but we need to clear the toxic blue light and lack of infrared light in our homes. And we need to avoid that ultra-processed light. Are we good? So I just wanted to show you, I've just discovered, I knew about ATP synthase probably 30 years. I never realized what a miracle it is. And because infrared lubricates the action of it, improving metabolic health. Are we good?
Proving that one microphone's not working, that is kind of.
This is amazing, guys. Driven by light, lubricated by light, driven by food, lubricated by near infrared light. Your metabolism, it's crazy and glorious.
Okay.
Just what would we do without Robin?
I was just thinking the same.
Okay, it should be. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. Very simply speaking, this is how ATP synthase works. Yeah, you see, and the fact that it's like a carousel blew me away. We shouldn't be blown away because we've got DNA, which is pretty, it's a zip. Okay, so but I was absolutely blown away there. But you see how it just keeps on rotating anti-clockwise, and it is driven by a proton differential between the intramembranous and extramembranous. Basically, the hydrogen ions are at a low concentration on the outside, and they're on a high concentration on the inside. And as they go through the membrane, they drive the circulation of the ATP synthase, and the near infrared comes in like WD-40 on a squeaky hinge. It comes in and lubricates it so that your metabolic health can be improved, so that you can deliver ATP to reduce your chance of cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, you name it, metabolic health. This is it. Magnesium. Robin, you mentioned magnesium. There's magnesium in orange right there. So you were kind of right. Well done. There you go. That's us. I hope you're as excited about near infrared as I am right now.